Hi, everybody. We are back here again on a Sunday morning. Got another delightful guest here. Haven't recorded in a minute, just dealing with health issues, and a lot of people have checked on me. I really do appreciate it, and getting better. So, we'll hopefully, in the next week or so, I'll be back to normal. But anyway, this guest reached out, and she's got her own story. She's impacting her own community and helping others who have dealt with struggle. And, of course, it's the goal, get these type of people on the show who, are doing something with their lives and are giving back. And I always say, like, taking your pain and turning it into something positive is always one of the most beautiful things that people can do, instead of being bitter or angry, or resentful. We all go through that stage, but there's so many times if you can just turn it around and just help one other person who reminds you of where you were at your lowest. Like that's a real it's a real kind of breaking point in your life. So anyway, would you like to tell us your name and maybe a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Gina Economopoulos. I was born and raised in on Long Island, New York. From one of eight children. My parents, Italian and Greek. And now I'm living at the Jersey Shore, at the beach, where heaven and earth meet. So I'm at where I finally found my peace.
That's good. Yeah, you can hear like the New York Italian in you.
Yes. Can't get rid of it. It's been instilled in it. So,
That's all right. That's just who you are.
amen.
Yeah, I think so many people look at something in their past or whatever, and they feel like they have to change who they are. And it's like, no, you just got to get better and evolve, but you still can keep the essence and your core together.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone would say the Italian and Greek is a great combination, and my response would be like, "Yes, it is. I can't change it now. That's who I am, and that's an easy thing to accept about about oneself. Like we can't change our nationality or anything like that.
Well, and Italians are usually like really family oriented and supportive, and I mean, obviously,
Emotional.
yeah, emotional. Yeah. Well, I know because my sister's half Puerto Rican, and both those cultures are very similar in certain ways. Um,
Uh,
and it,
exactly. Yes, they are.
and it's like I've always talked about how like some of the mothers in the family, like they're super loud and it comes off like they're aggressive or angry, but in general it's more they're happy, and they're just kind of passionate. They just speak loud, but they're so
Yeah.
about protecting the family.
Uh, exactly. Yes, my mother was an Italian. Was the Italian, and yes, and she loved to scream. But you know what? There was love behind it. There was so much love behind her yelling. And at the end of the day, we just knew. I just knew, and I don't. I speak for all my siblings that we did have unconditional love from both of my parents growing up. So there is no complaints there at all.
That's good. That's good. So what brought you to this show? What is it? Yeah, what brought you here?
Oh, well, I noticed on your podcast that you talk to people like you shared. People go from pain, and then they go from pain to light. One would say, and I've experienced in my own life a lot of pain. Matter of fact, I wrote a book. I'm a first time author. I keep forgetting that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I wrote my book, Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk. It's my memoir. So it's real. It's not fake news. It's true.
Uh,
It could be found on Amazon, but it was a story of my life. Like I said, I came from a large, loving family. And but for some reason, for myself growing up, I didn't like myself. I was very insecure. I was very fearful. I was a pleaser. I was trying to find love in all places among friends by peer pressure. I was born with a lot of health issues, so I was not the athlete like I wanted to be, like my siblings, because
Mm-hmm.
7 of my siblings were athletic, and I was just very limited because of my physical problems, my physical limitations. So I believe in my own self. I had brought that upon myself. Granted, my parents loved me, but I would be comparing in grade school because I couldn't run right, and people would make fun of me running. And as a kid, that's hard. When you're
Oh yeah.
trying to please others and you want to be liked, you want to be loved, you want to be popular.
Yeah.
So, so that was like, I grew up with a lot of insecurities, and that carried me through to my adulthood.
Yeah.
So, my first pain, like I said, I was born with a lot of physical problems, had a lot of surgery, but to me that was nothing because I was just so used to it. It was just a common thing. Okay, it happened to Gina. Okay, it happened to Gina. Okay, I'll endure this.
Yeah.
So the physical pain you become immune to, you become used to it,
Sure.
and I, back then it wasn't like trauma for me because it was just part of my norm. Car accidents. Yep. Gina gets hurt. Gina gets hurt. So I had developed myself this like black cloud, one would say. The poor me, the
Yeah.
why me, and that, and I went through high school trying to be popular. I, I was a unique individual, I would say, because I was friends with everyone, trying to fit in. Um, and then, and like when I say sitting in the crowds, that's when I started drinking, trying to wipe away that pain, that insecurity, because when I was drinking, I was like, yeah, I was in. I
Right.
was in. Like I didn't care how I felt. But then, of course, the next day, I'm back to Gina again, the old Gina again.
Yeah, because there's
So
only so
that,
much you can run from yourself.
yes. But you know what? I ran for myself until I was in my 40s.
Wow.
Until my 40s, TJ. I mean, yes, I just ran. Yeah, but I didn't realize then. I didn't realize it then. I mean, yes, I probably could have used a program or some help back then, but I was just, Gina. I had a great smile. My mother named me after Gina Lollobrigida, which was a famous actress, and so everyone would call me, "Oh, look at little Gina Lollobrigida. She's so cute. She's so cute." I knew I was cute because everyone told me, but I wanted to be pretty. I wanted to be beautiful. I wanted to be like one of those models.
Right. Yeah.
And but my smile, hid everything. I had a great smile, and I was just in pain on the inside, and that to me was worse than the physical pain that I had endured, because the physical pain I got used to. This pain I did not. So it's time, I'll go as I go forward. Like in college, I went away to college, and my dad was so gracious enough to put all 8 of us through college. I mean, how he worked. He was a hard worker, and he wanted us to all, experience college, and especially away. So I went to a school in Connecticut, and I was like, I'm free. I'm free from my parents, so I could do really everything I wanted to, because I respected my parents growing up. If they tell me don't do this, I don't do it, but yet I would hide it, be a secret kid, running behind their back. And, but I always got caught. I don't know why, but my siblings never got caught, but I always got caught in doing things that I shouldn't be doing. But so when I was in college, it was like, yes, I'm free for all. And that's where my drinking, really, was like a daily drinker in college, because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. And even in college, one would, you would think you would have security with yourself, or you liked yourself. And maybe there are college students that like themselves even back then, but I didn't. I didn't. And so yeah, but then I did. I graduated from college. I got a social work degree, which by nature, I do have a heart of service. I do have that compassionate heart of like helping people, but sometimes I may help them for the wrong reason, like a people pleaser.
Yeah.
But I learned that later on in life, and but then yet my first trauma experience was when I was 23. I had graduated from college. At this point, my parents moved from New York to Pennsylvania, and so after college, I had to let go that college life. Uh, I had to, I moved. Not that I had to, but my parents said, "Oh, you could come home," and I was like, "Okay." And I kind of did it reluctantly. I remember crying. I was like, I didn't want to live under my parents' roof, but I did. I did because once again, their unconditional love was there for me. And then in my mind, when one's in college, you get a degree, you know what you're going to do, you find a boyfriend, you get married, like afterwards. But
Yeah.
I had none of that. I didn't have a boyfriend. I mean, I didn't have a steady boyfriend or someone that I'm going to be married to, and so living with my family, I did get a job. Uh, yes, one you're supposed to go into the working world of a 9 to 5 job, but yet I bartended because I wanted that atmosphere, that drinking atmosphere, that college atmosphere, that fun atmosphere that I lived throughout college life. So I bartended, and I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is going to be my life. I'll find my man of my dreams at the bar. And but at this time, in my 2 years after college, my mother was diagnosed with cancer in 1991. I was 23, and she was diagnosed with bone cancer, terminally ill, 4 to 6 months to live. And now I had a younger brother at the time, and he went off to college. He started college, and here I was, with my dad, taking care of my mom, and I would never leave. And ironically, right before she was diagnosed, in my mind and heart, I wanted to be a cruise director. So I had all these applications to fill out. I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go travel. But then, of course, when my mom was diagnosed and having 4 to 6 months to live, which I didn't comprehend that, I wouldn't leave. I couldn't leave because she's my mom.
Yeah.
So I did. I stayed. The dream of being on the cruise kind of was put to the side, and I took care of my mom with my dad. I was a caregiver. I didn't realize it back then, but I was.
Yeah.
I would do anything for my mom back then, and I would still do if she was alive today.
Sure.
But ultimately, she did die 5 months after her diagnosis. So that's where my pain and trauma began, so to speak. And really, a deep pain, grief, and and a spiritual journey as well began with me on when my mom died. So
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, we have a lot of similarities in some ways. I mean, obviously, my mom didn't die; she's still alive. But there was a lot of me running from who I was, and I'm now 36. But probably not. It took me to my early 30s before I started really kind of appreciating who I was, and like I realized, wow, I've been running from who I'm meant to be and be an advocate and speak up for others and so on. And I just kept talking about it, never really doing. But it's really weird how we try so hard to be like other people, and we feel like that is what's gonna validate us. That's what's gonna make us beautiful. And the thing that actually makes us beautiful is the thing that makes us unique. And we tend to run from that. We go, yeah, but I don't like, because I talk about it a lot on here, is like when you're a kid, like you were speaking about, is like when you're a kid, standing out sucks. You don't want to stand out because that's how you get picked on. That's how people put the spotlight on you and go, ew, or whatever. And but like when you get older and you're able to kind of learn who you're meant to be and who you are, then it's like, oh, like I'm happy that I'm different. Because when I look around at the world and I see people that are like losing their minds because their guy won the election or their girl didn't win the election, and I see people who love each other and they're now tearing each other down because of this thing. And it's like, wait, like, no, like I'm happy that I'm different. I'm happy that I can look back and go, okay, it's over. Here's what it is. Let's move on. Let's go back to our lives and let's try to live. And I think when you go through a lot of pain and a lot of trauma, you have to spend a lot of time recovering and a lot of time thinking and thinking like in every direction, thinking outside the box and like trying to solve problems, solve your issues, solve the world's issues. And, yeah, and but it is a very humbling and beautiful thing when you're able to kind of turn it all around, regardless of how long it takes you. It's like, man, I should have been doing this the whole time. Like this is, it's been screaming at me. And I said something on social media. It's like, why is the voice that wants to tear me down always louder than the one that wants to uplift me? And it's because like that voice has always been there. There's always been something that says, hey, you should go in this direction. But I'm like, no, that's scary. That's challenging. I don't want to do that. And then eventually you're just kind of forced to be that. And you're putting in a position where you're like, it's fight or flight. You're like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And then you do it and you realize, oh, I'm good at this. And this feels like right. This feels comfortable. And you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have been running all this time.
Oh, yes, I ditto. I totally agree. And I hear what you're saying, and that's exactly in my experience. And yes, you know, I sometimes, not that I used to say I wish, or in the last few years, like if I'm the person that I am today, say 30 years ago, I wouldn't have gone through all this pain, you know, because I would know how to handle it. I would realize what the root of it is, or I would say, but that wasn't my story. Right. That was not me. And I have to learn that. And I have learned that. But there was a point, you know, like sometimes people, and I used to say it, I'm guilty of it, they coulda, woulda, shoulda. Yeah, but no, you know, it is what it is, like you said. It is what it was. It's a story that, for me, my God had unfolded without me realizing it. And, yes, I had to go through a lot of the pain and the suffering and the rejection and the betrayal, like all these negative feelings, to a point where it's like, oh my God, I almost died from it all, just because it brought me down to a place where I was so dark. Like, how can this be? This can't be. You know, this is my life. I came to a point in that pain and suffering that I really thought, about 11 years ago, I really thought, okay, this is my life. I'm just going to simply exist in a dark place, just keep moving, work, whatever. If I was working, whatever, eat, sit, like that. And just I was so imprisoned in my own self. So, yes, I hear everything you're saying, because now I look back and I laugh. I said, boy, was I a runner. And I was floating on the river of denial, denial,
Sure. Yeah.
things like that. Or I would say, wow, I had a false identity that I built up within myself, not realizing it.
Yeah.
And I think most of it for myself is, I mean, everything is in hindsight now, because now I'm open and free to talk about it. But back then, in hindsight, yes, I was running. And it's because I was running from pain. Like, nobody wants to be rejected. Nobody wants to be, thrown away or be made fun of. Nobody wants that, And like I said, I'm used to the physical pain, but yet the emotional pain, not being liked, not being, part of something. And and that's where it was like, I was like searching for that love, for that acceptance. And I was looking for it in all the wrong places. But yet, I'm here to tell you that, that I was able to find the true place within myself, like you had shared, of who I am, and embrace myself. And wow, I'm pretty good. I'm a good person. And yes, and use my experience and my journey of that pain to share it. And that's why, when I wrote my memoir, I opened up my wounds, my everything, things that I never told anyone before. I had written in that memoir, just to and it's also healing. It's a lot of healing, but it doesn't matter. Like, well, oh, I think our healing journey is constantly. It's every day. It's every day. I can't say today I'm totally healed, but I could say today that I do like myself, and that I'm comfortable with myself, and I still need to be healed because there are such sometimes deep wounds that we don't realize. Not that I'm running from it today, that I'm just, sometimes they just pop up.
Yeah.
But, oh my God, what is this from? And that's where I have to take a look because I have the tools today. That's not bad, or that's not true anymore, and then I ask my God, or, something greater than myself, come and love that area, or come and heal that area, whatever is needed. Because, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because I can relate to you a lot in multiple different avenues here. I mean, even just the physical pain and all that, because you go through so much pain and mental pain. You go through physical and mental pain for so long that you just think like, oh, I'm broken and this is who I'm meant to be. And you pity yourself and you feel sorry, and you're like, and you look at all your siblings or you look at everybody in your life and they're not like you. And you're like, God, I hate that I'm different. I hate that I'm like this. And then, and then like, again, as you grow, you're like, okay, like maybe this isn't so bad. And it's just, now, and I also, another thing you said is just, I don't know if we're ever going to like 100% heal, but when you look at like the hill that you've had to climb, you look at where you were, that it's like if you can take a huge look back and you look at like, in the area where you were, whatever, 5 years ago, even 2 years ago for me or whatever. And I go, my God, like at one point I was a kid dying in a hospital, and then I was a kid then I became suicidal and all these different things. And then like now I look at myself and it's like, I fight for those people. I fight for the people who are struggling. I fight for the people who want to kill themselves. I fight for people who, try to give them some knowledge and just be a representative of us. And I go and like, I still have my days where I tear myself down a little bit and I feel sorry and I have PTSD and all that. And the trauma takes over sometimes, but the difference is now for like you and I and others like us is we're at a place now where like that would have taken us weeks to recover, months to recover, days to recover. Now it's like a 24-hour cycle. And it's like, oh, you wake up the next day and you don't know why, but you're smiling again. And you're like, oh, yesterday felt like I was in a whirlwind of emotions and I didn't know if I could get out of this storm. And then you wake up the next morning, you're smiling and you look at the sun out and you're like, all right, it's a new day.
I totally agree, and I look at these, situations today because I realize also, TJ, life goes on with me or without.
Yeah.
Challenges come no matter what, out of my control, whatever happens in the world or family or health, whatever. And when these things do come at my door or in my life, whether it's for me or for someone else, yes, my first reaction will be negative, like poor me, self-pity. Like that was I had a couch, my self-pity couch. I invited everybody, whoever wanted to join me back then, Right. But today, it's like when things happen like that, yes, why, God? Why? Why again? Why this? But then I realized after spitting out all those negative thoughts, writing them out, fears, the future, whatever, that it's like, wow, it's a growth opportunity.
Yeah.
Not only in healing, but it's growth in my trust in the process. It's the growth for me. It's a trust in my God. It's a growth in my faith or my belief or staying in the light. It's just a constant growth. And yes, I know, I'm not going to be 100% perfect in this lifetime, thank God. But yet these little opportunities, I could look at it and I could say, okay, yes. Because I've always heard our first reaction is always negative. It's always negative, no matter who you are, what you are. And then you take a breather, you pause. Okay, now is it really true? Or you look at it in a different way, in a positive way. Okay, maybe it is true. What do I need to do with it? Do I need to let go, to forgive? or to breathe or take a nap or something, something to know, because that will help. That helps me to handle whatever the situation comes in, and then to realize I may not feel like it, but I'm growing through it.
Yeah. When you could take a look back at like the things you went through and like the purpose of why you went through it. Like I went through
Amen.
something very similar, just or something recent where I had a minor procedure and I had to wake up with a catheter in for 2 days, and I'm miserable and I'm like, I hate this thing, and I get it out. And all I wanted to do was get it out. And when I finally get it out, it was elating and I was like, yes, woo. And then eventually I started calming down and and I started thinking about other negative things. And I'm like, wait a minute. No. We were, those 2 days, you were just praying to get this thing out. And now it's out. So we now have to try to find a way to live without it and be happy and like we said we would be. And then
Exactly.
I realized I was like, okay, I don't know all the reasons why I had to go through this, but I know one of them was it made me appreciate my mobility, because I have friends who are in wheelchairs. I have friends who don't have legs. I have friends who have crutches and so on and so on, spina bifida. And so, and yes, I have a visual impairment and all that, but and I have some chronic pain and all that, but I can move my legs. I can get up out of bed. And when I was in that with that catheter, I was limping constantly. I was walking like an old person. I could barely get around properly, and I'm like walking on my tippy toes, and everything hurt. I couldn't sit right. I couldn't stand right. Couldn't sleep right. And then like, man, now the way I look at I go, oh, like, okay. Like right now, I'm sitting on the couch talking to you with my microphone in my hand. Like I can sit here without any pain. And when this podcast is up, I can get up and walk around. And so like when you can look at these moments, even if they're small couple day moments where you're like, you look at it and you're like, all right, in this little box, like, what did this mean? Why did I have to go through this? And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'm grateful for my mobility. That's something to be proud of. That's something to be grateful for. So,
amen.
And if you can do that with the rest of your life, all the things that are traumatic, and you can find ways to figure out why you went through it and not just be the victim and just be like, hey, I went through this because God hates me or because I'm a broken person or whatever it is. If you can figure out like, I went through this because this made me stronger. This made me be able to help take care of my mother or whatever it is. It changes a lot of things, changes your whole outlook, your whole perspective.
Yeah. Yes, it's so true. And part of my journey and my story is that I was a Catholic nun for 12 years.
Right. I remember you telling me that.
So when I entered the convent in 1997, I left about 2008. I knew the community prior. So because after my mom's death, I had this profound, one would say, a spiritual experience. I came back to my Catholic roots. I came back to the Catholic Church. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be a nun. This is it. This is my life, It was a Franciscan order. Lived a very austere life. I, wore a habit, slept on the floor, etc. And just helping and reaching out to people. I was 29 years old. This is my vocation. Once again, this is going to be for the rest of my life. But during my religious life, I experienced great joy, and because I'm a heart of service, and we worked with the poor, helping people, and I love that, working with gang members. I love that, working with youth. I love that, the elderly, the dying, you name it. I love that. But yet, the community in itself, it wasn't a good fit for me, one would say. I did share a lot of that personal experience as a nun in my book because I endured a lot of pain and suffering. I endured a lot of rejection and betrayal, and you name it. It was like to a point where I got kicked out. They wouldn't say that, I don't think, but I do, because I put all my blood and sweat and tears for this. I was in final vows, and in the last 2 years of my religious life, they really didn't know what to do with me. I was sent away here. I was, sent away there just to maybe get help, self-help. I was open to get it. I'm thinking that, I'm good. I can continue to live this life. but I felt they didn't accept me, or they didn't love me, and in hindsight, I believe back then, not to say they are there today, is that it was dysfunctional. It was too, and I was dysfunctional in myself because I really didn't love myself. I like jumped from one thing to another, one thing to another. Like, yeah, I'm finding a peace, the peace and the love in a religious community. So I did. I had left there after 12 years, and at this point, I was broken. And I was so angry with God because, as a religious sister, I married God, and I felt He was the one who called me. And yeah, when I left, I was like, what's going on here? Poor me, poor me. Can't even be a sister? What's going on in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I experienced, after, being there and living in a very austere life, a friend from the community had invited me when stuff was happening, and when I had to find a place to go. I couldn't go right into the world because I didn't know how to live the world. So I went to go live with men and women with disabilities. They were autistic, they were Down syndrome, mentally ill, or whatever they say today. But, and it was what a gift. What a gift. It was a transition time for 2 years that I never lived with them. I never lived with people with disabilities, but living with them, boy, there was a lot of love because, as we know, those who are with disabilities like Down syndrome, they love, and they love unconditionally. And I received that love. and I've learned, during that time, I was saying, they don't have any disabilities. We do, because we can't love, but they can. So I don't know who was a disability at the time, Right. And I experienced that. I experienced like a transition of coming into the world. And then, but after being there for 2 years, I decided I was kind of tired, and I was still searching and maybe running at the same time. It's like, because there was that empty soul, empty space in my heart. It was like a soul sickness, whatever one would say. And that's when I came back. It came to the Jersey Shore. Because I love the beach. I was like, okay, I'm in my early 40s, and I'm like, I want to do what Gina wants to do, and Gina wanted to live by the beach, so I did. I came to live by the beach, and I became a bartender again. Go be it, like I was just, I was just one confused person trying to fit into the world now and fit into who I am, and I just didn't know where I was, or who I was at the time. Okay. And so, and not being a sister in a religious life, I was, okay, I'm back to Gina again. I'm back to Gina. And so, and right there, that was another part of my life, that was lost, another grief because of, being with this community for almost 12 years. It was like a divorce. It was, a lot of pain, but my pain and my brokenness got deeper. Like I felt like it kept knocking down. So, so it's just, like in hindsight, once again, if I was who I am today, back then I wouldn't have put up with all that stuff in the convent. Yeah. But it is what it was. And it's a learning experience. It's like, that's it. That's for me, it's my learning experience where I could share with people that, even though, even though of everything I happened, but God was always there with me, or a higher power, whatever faith there is that someone believes in. That, I was carried. And, but then yet I experienced another trauma after that. But this is where I am today, to continue, to be who I am today. But even when I left the nunnery, and even when I started bartending, I still didn't know who I was.
Right.
I still didn't know who I was.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy when you look at a good portion of your life where you just constantly think that you're cursed, and then at some point you change that outlook and you're like, well, maybe I was blessed. but it's hard to
Yes.
see that because you're in the middle of trauma. And like for me, I mean, the things that happened with my eyes, and then I went through a bunch of abuse and so on, and and just life kept going on. And it's like I wanted life to slow down so I can kind of decompress what is happening to me, but I never could. And
Yeah.
so then it got to where I became an adult. Now I'm in my 20s, and now it's like, oh God, I'm alone, and oh God, I'm ugly, and all these things. And you're like, I have a disability, and this is
Amen.
awful. But the older I get, the more I'm like, what I've been able to tap into with my disability, with my mental health. And I've been, yeah, I struggle, but I also put it out there and I show people what it's like to struggle, what it's like to go through, but also struggle while thriving and living my life
Amen.
and learning to appreciate and love who I am. I still have days of insecurity. I still have days where I, kick myself a little bit, beat myself up a little bit, but I mainly, like, I have much more good days than bad. And I tend to look at, like, I like this journey has been very, it's been therapeutic, and it's been very helpful for me to really know who I am and who I'm meant to be. And I feel like if I take out any piece of that journey, I feel like it alters the whole thing. And so
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's exactly because it's a journey. I mean, I thought leaving the convent and leaving coming to the Jersey Shore. Okay, I'm going to start something new. I'm going to find something new in my life, and that's where when I was bartending, I did find something new. Is that I met a man. I met a guy. His name was Danny. He came into the bar, and I was like, wow, my first relationship, and it's like, oh, maybe my dreams are coming true, being married. And at this point, when I was young, I wanted to have 8 kids. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to have 8 kids now, but having a man in my life to love me, and he did. He loved me for me, but yet we had an obstacle in the way that he was an alcoholic, and when I met him, he was drinking, and at the point, I didn't know what a real alcoholic was. To me, I thought it was someone, in a person under the bridge with a brown paper bag,
Right.
And so, but yet, Danny comes into the bar. That's where I met him, and find out that he was an alcoholic. And here I'm like, no, I don't want to be around you. And so he did try to stop drinking. He went into a 12-step program called AA, and in and out, in and out. I didn't know much about the disease. He encouraged me to go to Al-Anon to learn, and I'm like, wow. And then ultimately 2 years later, when he was sober, he has a story in itself, but he ended up dying from this disease. To make a real long story short, he died of this disease, and I found him dead. It was a month before our wedding, back in 2013. It was March of 2013 when I found him.
You mean alcoholism?
And from alcoholism, yeah. So, and this happened in Indiana. It's a story. It's a real tragic story in itself of his story. And I was all alone. Now at this point, TJ, here I am, like thinking I met the man of my dreams. Granted, he was an alcoholic, whatever. Okay, God, you could do anything. You could heal him. You could give him the gift of sobriety. But yet he ended up dying a month before our wedding day. And I was lost. I was totally flat. I was totally flatlined. I was totally shocked. I was totally like, okay, God, I don't like you anymore. I really don't. Okay, I don't like my life anymore. I don't like this anymore. I was like, I was trying to hang on and trying to find that there is a purpose, and then there is some peace, and that maybe my dreams could come true. And here, finding Danny dead, my heart was shattered. It wasn't even broken. It was shattered. And I always relate it to when we drop glass, sometimes it gets broken and you could put it together. But when it's shattered, you got to throw those pieces away because you can't put it together.
Yeah.
And that's how I really, in the state of my mind, heart, and soul and spirit, is where my heart was. I was totally in such a dark place that my heart was shattered, and that was it. That was it. Like, I didn't want to wake up in the morning. I would pray to God, please, I don't want to wake up tomorrow morning. And then the next morning I would wake up and I'd be like, oh my God, I can't go through this. I can't do it.
Yeah.
My family was, they were there, but weren't there. I didn't have really friends. All I had was Danny and his mom, but his mom had died in an accident. I mean, it was just like one thing after another up until this point. And this all took place in Indiana, where we were at the time living, and at the time he was sober, but yet, he ultimately, the disease, he succumbed to his disease. Yeah. And so I came back to the Jersey Shore, did not know what to do, but before that, I did go. My sister lives upstate New York, and before that, I did go visit her, like maybe a few months after Danny died, and I was like a walking zombie, no smile, no nothing. And somebody said start writing, so I started writing out my pain, writing. And then a lot of the pains and the suffering came up when I was a convent. Like, why God? Why this? And then as a child, why this? Why did I always feel this way? Why da? And so all that writing, I wrote about 180 pages in handwritten, and I put that aside. And then I eventually did come back to the Jersey Shore, but it was like I had no home. Physically, I didn't have a home as an apartment-wise, but I didn't have a home in my heart because Danny and his mom was my home. So I was just, I'm like, what am I doing now? I would never kill myself, but I just didn't want to live. Did not want to live at all. And so I just one foot, whatever, I can't even tell you, one breath. I was in such complicated grief that, I was just in such a really dark space. And then when I came back to the Jersey Shore after Danny died, and this is where he was from, and I for some reason, I went into the rooms of AA, a 12-step program, and I just wanted to find out, like, once again, I'm searching. Now I'm searching. I'm running and searching, and I'm wanting to find out, why did Danny die of this disease, and you guys are sober? Like, I was like a confused concept. Like, how did this happen? Because, when Danny was sober, he was a great guy. He was so loving and everything, and I knew he loved me for me when he was sober. And even, his drinking, I was like, why couldn't he stop for me? Like, I couldn't understand. And so when I went into these rooms, just listening, eventually it took me about a year, because for some reason, I felt more safe in these rooms. I don't know why at the moment, but eventually within the year after going to these rooms, not to say I'm an alcoholic, I didn't identify myself as an alcoholic because I wasn't, Danny was. And then all of a sudden, a year later, I was, because somebody prior to that, somebody said to me, Gina, you come in every day. You don't think you're an alcoholic, so why do you come? And, what was your relationship with alcohol? Yeah, and that was like the first seed I was planting. I was like, oh my God, in hindsight, when I drank, like I was sharing with you all my pain growing up, I ran to the alcohol and I couldn't stop. I was always, at different places, didn't wake up at different places, blackouts and things like that. That in April of 2015, I'm in one of these meetings, and I identified myself. My name is Gina. I am an alcoholic. And I'm like, where did that come from? And that opened up all the pain, everything I was running away, as well as things that I was carrying, all the wounds, the pain, the emotional, the physical, everything, the grief, the loss, the rejection. I was holding in, and all of a sudden that just opened up, and I was in more pain. I was like, how could this be? Yeah, and I tell you, it was through God's grace, because He did for me what I could not do for myself, for me to continue to be in that program and to open up and continue to allow the program, the people of the program to love me, and And I realized, that day that with all that pain, I knew I couldn't run to alcohol or any kind of drug or anything because that wasn't the solution. So in hindsight, I'm 9 years sober today. I have 9 years of sobriety, and
Congratulations.
thank you. 10 years, God willing, in April, but I have only today, and I practice this program. I learn, but I look in hindsight. Wow, I found where I belong in so many ways, and that's where I am today. I'm in recovery, and I'm in a place where, yes, I'm still wounded, like you had shared earlier. Yes, I had bad days. Yes, I have fearful days. I'm afraid of this, but yet today I have more of a healthy solution to embrace it than a negative solution,
Right.
which was the drinking, which was the self pity couch, which was the running away from Gina, like all that. That was not a healthy solution, which I didn't know any better because I didn't realize I was an alcoholic. And then in hindsight, I see how the disease of alcoholism, how it's cunning, baffling, insidious, how it was in the convent, and how it was every step of the way. And I think about with Danny, I kind of thank God that he died because the fact is I wouldn't find out who I really was. But then yet in that, TJ, beyond it, I'm Gina. I'm a person that I finally found home with. I've come to that light within me that I'm Gina. I'm a daughter of God, and that. But yet I am an alcoholic. But yet I have a program. I have the tools, and I have positive things that I could share or listen to help me to get through it one day at a time.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's very beautiful. Well said. So as we kind of wrap up here, like what is it that you want for Gina for the future?
Well, Gina, of course, I want to continue to, go on my healing journey. But what I would love to do is the passion of my heart is to spread that message of hope and strength to people that are in darkness, to people who are running, whether they realize it or not, for seeds to be planted. I really, for the future, of course, I want to do what God wants me to do and let Him work through me, but be that instrument. And also, TJ, as we know, we can't stop anyone's journey or anyone's pain, but what I could do is to be there. I'm also an end-of-life doula, which that's another story, which I'm present to those who are dying to help those to bring peace to their transition.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, my future really lies in God's hands of taking my story, growing in my own journey, and as well as share it with others, and maybe at least to help one person to not to know that they're not alone, don't give up, that there is some power and that they are loved. So
Yeah, for sure. No, that's like I told you earlier. It's one of the main reasons I created this. It's just people. I just don't want people feeling alone. I know how I felt.
amen.
I know I was a very lonely, scared kid, and there's plenty of people out there with mental health. There's plenty of people out there with vision problems, and who abuse survivors and trauma survivors. But when you're in the midst of it and your demons are just beating you down, you think that this is all you. And no one else out
Yeah,
here could possibly understand. You could be in a room full of people and feel alone. And
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
obviously, the older you get and the more you become in tune with who you are, you realize that no, you are clearly not the only one. And maybe with us, like our passion is to be that light that's like, hey, like I'm not perfect. I still struggle, but hey, you know what? Like you're not alone though. I'm here. I'm one
yeah.
person. At one point you thought it was zero people. Well, here's one person right here. Um,
So true,
yeah,
so true, TJ. And I realize, and I share with your listeners that there are miracles in the air, and there are miracles within each one of us
yeah,
that I've learned the hard way, but in hindsight, and then it's worth it. It really is. It's worth it that I've experienced and continue to experience where I am today.
Absolutely.
versus where I was back then. So
For sure. Would you want to promote your book again? Because you promoted in the beginning.
yes, yes, it's called "Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk," and it's available on Amazon.
That's awesome.
So
Well,
yeah,
I love and appreciate what you're doing, and so happy that you're sober and that you're fighting back and you're now the person you want to be. I mean, maybe you're not there entirely, but you're getting there. And keep doing what you're doing, and if you ever need a friend, and like I'd love to keep in touch with you. Um,
yes, definitely, definitely, and also you can check out my website. It's GinaEcon.com.
okay.
GinaEcon.com. That is my website in case someone wants to check out more about myself and know that I am here for you and for all your listeners, and I am praying for all of us that we will find the hope and stay in that hope in
Yes,
life.
yes, we shall. Well, I will let you go on that, and like I said, we'll talk soon. But I'm very thankful for that you came on and you shared your story.
Thank you, and thanks for your service as well.
Anytime. All right, we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, I'm gonna get up and get everything around here and just chill, watch football, and just relax for the rest of the day. I will probably go into the procedure more, everything I've been going through. It's been an up and down just journey, so you know me. I'm always going through something, but we're here, we're fighting, we're still spreading positivity. It's all that matters. I said I was gonna ride this body until it falls apart. I just hope it's not falling apart now. Let me see if Mr. Bullet would like to speak to his fans. Bullet? Sir? Sir? Hey. Open your eyes. Bullet. Mr. Bullet. Oh, he is being such a pain. Yeah, he's awake. He's just pretending like he's sleeping. But he's been here the whole time listening and being a part of the show. So, yep, I'm sorry to his fans. Whoop, hope he poked his head up. Hold on, let's see. Bullet, you want to speak? All right, you got a little purr. You got some purring. That's as good as you're going to get right now. But thank you guys. Like I said, no matter how much darkness I go through, I still try to be positive and try to spread as much light as possible because, man, I can't stay in the darkness forever, and I can't bring anyone else with me. That would tear me apart, no matter who it is, even if it's somebody I don't know. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you feel like you can't overcome what you're going through, you can. Gina is a perfect example of that. So am I, and many others that have been on here. Everybody that's been on here. So please stay strong. And like I said, you need to reach me. You want to get in touch. You need a friend. Get at me at My Blurred Opinion on Instagram and TikTok. Just reach out. I don't care if you support the content, but if you just need someone to direct message and talk to, the content may help you as well, especially the content I do on TikTok. I think it could actually help somebody out there, and it has. I've gotten a lot of good feedback, so made some friends too as well. So please stay strong, everybody, and enjoy your day, enjoy your week, and we'll see you guys next week. All right, guys. Bye.